So when I was a high schooler in Vegas 20-something years ago, the Boulevard Mall had a reputation for being, well, a little sketchy. But today on CityCast Las Vegas, I'm here with two members of the Nevada Preservation Foundation, Executive Director Paige Figgenbaum and Program Manager April Mensch, and they tell me that the Boulevard Mall actually has a fascinating history and a recent glow-up. It's Tuesday, March 24th. I'm Sonia Cho Swanson, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. All right, so Paige, April, how would you describe maybe like the stereotype of the Boulevard Mall to the average Las Vegan?
So I actually live very close to the Boulevard Mall.
Nice.
I think a lot of people have excused the Boulevard Mall as sort of a lost relic of the past, particularly with malls overall being seen as sort of something that's passe. And interestingly, it couldn't be farther from the truth, but we do have a lot of people, even in my own neighborhood, they're living right behind the mall. They haven't been there in years. And unfortunately, they're missing out on everything it has to offer.
Ooh, we're going to get into that. But Paige, do you have anything else to add about maybe the stereotype of the mall?
I think a lot of things in historic Vegas sometimes get that negative perception. But I think as we've really shown in other conversations and during our podcasts or many conversations is there's always this effort of revitalization. And I'm pretty sure, I think about 95% of the mall is occupied right now. I think they have a fantastic Filipino cultural center. So with the historic sites across Las Vegas, they sometimes get that bit of a perception, but you just have to take a little bit of a closer look and have more of an open mind, and you'll really find some really cool spots there.
The Boulevard Mall, surprisingly, has one of the lowest vacancy rates of any mall in the Las Vegas Valley. That means it has the fewest empty storefronts of any mall in the Valley. That was as of last year, but I'm sure that that's still pretty accurate.
That's amazing. Okay, so, you're the Nevada Preservation Foundation. Why are you taking a historical interest in the Boulevard Mall? Like, what makes the Boulevard Mall significant in Las Vegas history?
Well, I think as April kind of touched on a little bit, and there's a lot of fascination when it comes to mid-century modern history, and the mall really replicates that. I believe the mall was opened in March of 1968, and it was actually developed by Erwin Molaski and Melv Adelson, which is really important if you're a MCM buff.
Okay, so unfortunately, I am not. Those names do not mean anything to me.
Those were a couple of the major developers of that era. But additionally, what makes the mall significant is it was the first regional shopping center in Southern Nevada. So in many ways, it was kind of our first indoor mall, which was very exciting at that time as well.
And that's really prevalent because, as we know, after like the 1940s in Southern Nevada, we do see that increase of population because of World War II. But they really see that huge jump, especially between the time range of 1959, 1969. There was a jump from between 60,000 people living around Las Vegas, Clark County area, and then it's really jumping to about 120,000 in Las Vegas. Wow. So within that 10 years, there's a huge jump, and it was that shifting from having more of that suburban life.
So it's kind of like, we're a real suburb now. Look at us. Like, we have a shopping mall, like a enclosed indoor shopping mall.
Well, the mall became a big selling point, not just for the neighborhood, but for years, it was the best shopping in town. So you could go into that mall, and there are a lot of still original residents in Paradise Palms right behind it. And they talk about they've seen Cher, they've seen Ike and Tina Turner. That was where people went to shop. It was the only place in town to shop for a long time because this was not a very large city for a long time. There's a lot of people, their memories of their first jobs are at that mall, shopping for their first communion, weddings. I was going to say first wedding, but hopefully your only wedding.
For some of them, it's their first, yeah.
Shopping for all of life's big events was really happening inside of that mall.
I mean, let's be real. Nevada, Las Vegas is the divorce capital of the world too, right? Not only the wedding capital. So it could have been first wedding as well.
That was historically what Las Vegas in Southern Nevada was mainly known for, was being the divorce capital. And then it really shifted over in, again, the 40s and 50s to being the marriage and wedding capital of the world. So because of our divorce laws in the early 1900s. But I digress.
Yeah, no, I love these asides. This is like when I'm in the company of nerds, I'm with my people. Okay, I love this
Yeah.
conversation. So I kind of want to take us back to that moment in like the late '60s, early '70s when the Boulevard Mall was shiny and new. Can you kind of describe maybe like what it felt like, what it smelled like, the vibes? Like, was it very luxurious? Like, was it like, I don't know, the rare place with AC? You open the door and it's like, cold air blasting at me. Like, what was the vibe of the Boulevard Mall back in the day?
So the original vibe of the mall was it was meant to be sort of like a promenade, and it was supposed to look like a little bit like an outdoor village. So you would have walked in and there would have been like a fountain, a big fountain right in the center, which of
Mm.
course that becomes a mainstay of mall architecture in general, where you would always have the fountain, like meet me by the fountain. There was actually 3 fountains in the Boulevard Mall.
Wow.
And it did go through some phases. It opened in the late 60s. In the 70s, they sort of got a little bit more into bringing the outside in. You would have seen cobblestone walkways throughout there, a little more of those earthy muted tones. And of course, it was all of the top of the line stores. One of the big anchor stores at that time, there was a popular department store called the Broadway.
Oh, I
Yeah, which
already
is really
feel fancy just hearing
yeah,
that.
it's really beautiful. It's still, I believe it's an educational center now. But if you still look at it from the outside, you can still see how beautifully designed it was. It would have had beautiful signage out front as well. So it was very like, oh, we're going on a ladies who lunch kind of a vibe when you would
Mm.
go in.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, mall culture, when you get into like it being a teen hangout, that sort of evolved as we got into the 80s.
Roseman University's Neighborhood Health Series, or NHS, is a free monthly event with expert speakers on real conversations about health and well-being. It's free to attend, open to the public, and includes a complimentary meal. These are big picture conversations on global health, prevention, and collaboration across professions. So join the event March 26th in person at Roseman's Summerlin campus or virtually via Zoom. This month features founding Dean Catherine Fogelberg and looks at Roseman's proposed College of Veterinary Medicine. As Roseman takes steps towards opening Nevada's first College of Veterinary Medicine, this is a chance to learn why veterinary care matters for all of us and not just our pets. Learn how veterinarians play a major role in healthcare teams, including supporting animal, human, and environmental health. So join Roseman in person at the Summerlin campus or virtually via Zoom. Register now at speakers.roseman.edu. Closing out the UNLV Performing Arts Center's 49th season is a performance by the New York Philharmonic String Quartet. The quartet debuted with John Adams' Absolute Jest in New York City in 2017, and it comprises the 4 principal musicians from the orchestra. All 4 of its members are prize-winning soloists and have performed around the world. Concertmaster Frank Huang, Principal Second Violin Chan-Chen Lee, Principal Viola Cynthia Phelps, and Principal Cello Carter Bray. So with their powers combined, it's going to be an amazing performance. The evening's program includes Felix Mendelssohn's String Quartet No. 3 and Franz Schubert's String Quartet No. 15 and Kvardazats. That's Monday, March 30th at 7:30 p.m. at Artemis W. Ham Concert Hall. Get your tickets at pac.unlv.edu. So are there any relics in the building, either stores or architectural features that are still in the Boulevard Mall today, like relics from the early days? Like I'm thinking about Easter eggs that people can kind of go and hunt down in the Boulevard Mall.
Yes, there's a lot of the original elements still when you walk around that mall, like the soaring arches in the ceilings, the skylights. It still has the original like little street lamps that you can see. They've been there since the beginning. Again, it has this beautiful arched entryway when you walk in. And what's really fun is if you go into the mall, there is a history hall that has those big blown up old photos, and you can kind of do a little hunt and see, and you can see what's in the photo. And then when you look around, you'll realize that a lot of those original things are still intact. The mall in a lot of ways still, it has a lot of its original integrity on the inside of the mall.
And
Interesting.
we did a mall walk tour last summer, and we have been seeing pictures of a time capsule and we've been trying to find it. And so if any local out there knows where that time capsule's at, because we've been seeing a lot of photos, but we cannot find it anywhere.
Was it an unearthed time capsule from the mall's construction?
They buried it shortly after the mall opened, and it was supposed to be dug up 100 years later, but no one really knows where it is. Which, and I'm sorry, Paige, I stepped on what you were saying, but we do run the mall walk. We have a mall tour that we do, and we're going to be running it during our home history weekend coming up in April. It'll be led by yours truly, because I love to talk about the mall. That'll be, I believe it's Friday, April 17th. Is that correct? It's a mall walk through, we call it mall walk through the eras, and we basically do laps around the mall. And with each lap, we talk about a different decade of the mall. We encourage people to dress up too, because it makes adds a little fun to it.
I love that. Combining mall walkers, you know, the white sneakers, the like gym shorts, plus the history, architectural history. Fascinating.
Yeah. And I mean, we always have really great nuggets of locals who live there. Like I said, we're very lucky as an organization to have so many people living in historic neighborhoods that are part of our organization, April. So it's really great where she gets to talk about stories that she's heard from her neighbors. It really demonstrates how much we try to include community within our programming, especially during our Home and History Festival. So you are right. It is Friday, April 17th at 10 a.m. And please, we are asking anyone who knows where that time capsule at, please come and tell us, because that is something we've been trying to look for like months now. We've seen photos online.
Too. People ask us where it is, and I don't think anyone knows. Even some of the old school folks who've told me some wild stories about things that they had seen and heard inside that mall. No one's really sure where it is, or if it's even still there. If maybe someone dug it up in the night and ran away, who knows?
Yeah, so
fascinating. Oh my God, a mystery. Okay, listeners, if you know where the Boulevard Mall time capsule is, please get in touch with the Nevada Preservation Foundation.
Or come on our tour.
Come on the tour.
I have lots more exciting mall details to share. I mean, I don't really think I realized until we wrote this tour how interesting mall history in general is. But particularly with the Boulevard Mall, it was a really big centerpiece to our culture for many years.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting too, because malls have gone through some tough times. I know, especially in like the 2010s and, you know, into maybe some of the 2020s, malls were just closing across the country. I think I saw one stat that about 40 shopping malls closed every year between 2017 and 2022. But the Boulevard Mall escaped that fate. How has it stayed relevant? Paige?
Well, I think, again, it's adaptive reuse. I think people are being really creative in terms of how they're using the malls. And I think it was facing a lot of struggles, obviously, with the opening of the Fashion Show Mall, obviously with the 2008 housing crisis. And like you said, there was just people weren't really attending malls anymore during the 2010s and now in the 2020s.
Well, but the rise of online shopping, right?
Yes. Yes.
Fast delivery.
And,
yeah.
But that's what we're seeing with the Boulevard Mall. They were quite creative and making it more of like a cultural centered redevelopment. And I think that's what really helped shift it, because there's also like a Latin marketplace. I mentioned the Filipino Cultural Center as well. There's a bunch of small businesses for local services. And I think with that creativity, they're still using that space, but different types of uses. Which is really fundamentally something that we try to push as well, is the importance of adaptive reuse and having that creativity in terms of using historic spaces and places.
That's why it has the highest
occupancy
example of non-vacancies, because of what they're doing. What you're going to find when you go in there, it's not going to be your typical big box stores like you would have seen. It's educational. There's a lot of educational stuff going on in there. There's a barber school. There's a trucking school. There's all kind of different educational uses in there.
I think there's a charter school. There's actually like a charter public school, right? Or not a public school, but a charter school.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of, they've made it more of a cultural center. What they've done is they've reestablished it as a third place where people can go. But it's just, you're not going to go there to pick out new jeans anymore, but you are going to go there and you're going to learn a new skill. You're going to enjoy some of our local culture. They're very much just evolving with the times in a way that has made them really successful.
Yeah, and I want to shout out that Mercado page that you mentioned too, because it's a fascinating space. It's almost like a long hallway with small vendors selling, market items, crafts, food, drinks, beverages. It's really a cool space of Latinx vendors and community in that one part of the mall, which I find fascinating.
It's meant to replicate a Mexican marketplace.
Yeah.
I just think it truly reflects what Las Vegas is for the many communities that we have. I mean, how people live, and it just demonstrates the community spaces that evolve over time. As I think we talked about with the historic commercial center the first time we talked about downtown Las Vegas. So people kind of have that perception of what these historic spaces are, of sometimes there is a negative connotation attached with it. But I think if you walk in and just take the time to talk to people, I think you can really find truly what Vegas is.
Zen Leaf Las Vegas is a local dispensary brand with multiple locations serving the Vegas community. So if you go to their Flamingo and Fort Apache locations, here's something really cool. They offer deli-style flowers. So imagine a deli, right? Where customers can see, smell, and choose their buds before they are weighed fresh. And those locations at Flamingo and Fort Apache also have drive-through pickup if you want a quick and convenient option. North Las Vegas customers can take advantage of home delivery directly from the Zen Leaf team. And I would say Zen Leaf really focuses on making cannabis shopping approachable, convenient, and welcoming for both new and experienced customers. So visit a Zen Leaf Las Vegas location and, here's a special tip, mention CityCast or shop online using code CityCast, all caps, one word, to receive a special subscriber savings. So search for Zen Leaf Las Vegas to find your nearest location. You know what else I think makes so much sense for Las Vegas is we all want these walkable spaces. Everyone talks about wanting to be able to walk to your different stores and shop and browse and so forth. But yes, Paige, it is so freaking hot in Las Vegas. So actually kind of recreating this, maybe going back to the original intention or vision for the Boulevard Mall with those street lamps, right? April, I see you nodding.
Well, that goes back to the original intention of the gentleman who is considered the godfather of the mall in general. Which happened in the late 40s. And they were originally meant to replicate sort of a European town square where people would walk and there would be cafes. And the architect who was first credited with doing that is a gentleman by the name of Victor Gruen. He was a Viennese architect who came here during World War II. And he just really noticed that there was this disconnect between where we work and where we live. And he had this idea of creating a space that was contained that would give the essence of a downtown, like a European downtown cultural center where you could shop and you could eat and you could meet with friends. And that's really where that goes back to what the original intention of the mall was.
Which is funny to me because I feel like in a lot of modern American culture, we tend to turn up our noses or thumb our noses at the mall as this kind of dystopian, rampant American consumerism, blah, 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 blah. But I think the vision behind it actually is something a little different. There's something a little bit more communal and something maybe in some ways the Boulevard Mall is fulfilling the original purpose of malls better than it ever has before.
I 100% agree, and I say that all the time.
Yeah, it's community spaces, and I get the hyper consumerism, especially in this day and age when we can buy something at our fingertips on our phones or on our computers and everything. But yeah, I 100% agree with you both. Is fundamentally it's just to have a place where everyone can meet up and just talk to one another, and that's why. I think there's a bunch of mall walks groups that you can do there as well. But that was our intention when developing this tour is, again, bringing people together, learning history, but building that community. And it gets so hot in the summer. So we were like, we want a walking tour, but how do we do it?
That's so smart.
That's why we were like, a mall walk would be great. Especially, I think it's in the 90s this week. So
yeah. Well, it was, I think when we started to build the tour out and research, we didn't expect to find the history of general mall history to be so fascinating. But it really, it's such an integral part of just American culture, not just the Boulevard Mall, but mall history in general. There's a lot of really cool, interesting trivia about malls and how they shaped our society.
Do you want to drop a favorite fact you have about that?
Mall walking. If people wonder where mall walking comes from, mall walking came about. The first instance of it was in the mid 80s. And the reason mall walking became popular was because malls were a safe space for seniors to walk around as opposed to being outside where you might be in inclement weather. You might have to deal with road hazards. And more importantly, there was security. So
Oh.
it was a safe, that was why the rise of mall walking happened in the 1980s. And it became huge. At one point, there was a Boulevard mall walking group that had like 1,000 members.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's what it was.
Yeah. Because you would circle the mall. And in the 80s, that was a big form of exercise. And particularly it became a form of exercise for people who maybe were not as physically fit. They would maybe need a place to sit down, or they needed it to be climate controlled. And that's why the rise of mall walking happened.
Oh my God, I love that. So wear your best, white sneakers, tall socks, colorful windbreakers, outfit yourself in the 80s gear. I love it. You know, actually, all this is getting me thinking, because my vision for the future of Las Vegas is that we all just live in these climate-controlled biodomes. And so why don't we just add some housing and then turn these into little biodomes, right? You got the Boulevard Mall biodome, Meadows Mall biodome, you know? Let's do
They
it.
have turned some mall. There is examples of turning malls in
For
other
housing.
states into housing.
Oh my
Yes.
God, why not?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Can't think of the name of any of them right now, but there are examples of some malls that have been turned into really cool housing. I mean, they're these huge buildings and they're perfect. They can still serve a purpose, even if it's not the original purpose for which they were intended.
Yeah. Do y'all want to shout out any of your favorite like vendors or restaurants or stores in the Boulevard Mall? Maybe just like one or two each?
Well, one of the most viral restaurants in town is actually in the mall.
Really?
Primal Steakhouse, which has become one of the most popular steakhouses in town. They don't need me to shout them out. They're already busy enough. But if you're scrolling on your social media, if you're reading on your computer, you've probably heard about Primal Steakhouse. That's right inside the Boulevard Mall. Another place that I love in the mall is this goes to show, we talked about it evolving with modern culture. There is like a quinceañera dress store. And when you can walk by, they have all the big, beautiful dresses in the window. I love to window shop there. And it's also really family friendly. Like you can go in there with your kids and there's a little train that still goes around the mall in a circle. It's like, I think it's like $2 and they'll let you go on. I've taken on my nephew and a young cousin, my cousin's kid actually. And they let adults go on too. You can circle around the mall. It's a little hokey, but you know what? It's fun. It's a little bit of good old fashioned mall fun.
Yep. She took my favorite stores as well. But I do really like the Latin marketplace as well. So personally, I just like it to get out of the heat and I just enjoy walking.
You're a mall walker, Paige. I can see it.
Yeah,
A mall
I do.
walker at heart. That's great. I love that. So what lessons can dying malls across the country learn from the Boulevard Mall?
I think it's just figuring out what works for obviously that community. For obviously down with the Boulevard Mall, it's really thinking of being a community center, thinking of trade schools and a place for learning, small businesses, local services. I think that's what's really worked and why they've been able to thrive again, per se. So, I mean, I think it's just finding what niche your community needs and just having a bit of creativity in those historic spaces.
You know, on a side note, I'm just remembering, I think I actually voted at the Boulevard Mall once. I think I like dropped off a ballot. It was a ballot drop-off location as well. So talk about third space, you know, and adaptive reuse. So what does the evolution of the Boulevard Mall say about how Las Vegas has changed?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, you really see a reflection in the cultural aspect of it. You've got Mercado, which is serving the Hispanic market on this side of town. So Las Vegas is 30% Hispanic. I believe we're close to 40% when you get into this part of town. And then as Paige mentioned, we now have the Filipino corridor. There's a museum that popped up in there as well. I noticed it the last time I went in. I haven't checked it out. There's a couple museums. There's that, and there's also the Infinity Museum as well. So in that respect, it's reflecting more what you're going to find in the surrounding community and what the community needs. You also see that with the sort of educational institutions that have gone in there as well.
Yeah. I'm in complete agreement. I don't want to ever disparage it, but like I said, people or visitors or tourists coming in, they kind of get lost in the neon, which is great. Neon history is very important to us, but fundamentally, Vegas and Southern Nevada is much more than that. And as April is saying, I think when you see in the Boulevard Mall, it truly reflects the many different art spaces, creative spaces, cultural communities that are all kind of in downtown Las Vegas or downtown Clark County. So I think that's really what it echoes for Las Vegas.
I love that. Well, Paige, April, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast episode about the Boulevard Mall. And I really hope you guys find that time capsule. Fingers crossed for you.
Thank you.
And that's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed this show, go tell a friend, rate this show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. Don't forget, you can support this show and get some great perks by becoming a CityCast Las Vegas neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Take care.